Hi, my name is Cassandra Marnocha. I am an assistant professor of biology at Niagara University. Um, I am a environmental microbiologist, environmental scientist. So my research involves going out into the field and taking a look at the microbes in the environment and how they interact with the environment as a whole and how they cycle nutrients and things like that. Um, I first became interested in environmental science, like I think a lot of students and a lot of other environmental scientists do. I liked being outside. I found the natural world fascinating. And I think when I got to the point where I found out that I could do that for a living, I could do things outside for a living, that became a really attractive career option for me. Um, so in being someone who liked the outdoors and who was fascinated by the outdoors, and I think this holds true for a lot of people, you you start to realize how precious it is, and sort of in the theme of the Vincentian Heritage Week, uh, we want to protect our environment and our environmental resources, and we don't necessarily mean resources like things we can exploit, but just the resources of natural beauty and things like that that we want to maintain. So for me, being an environmental scientist was one part. I love being outdoors, and another part, that I want to protect those things that I like in the outdoors so much. And like I said, I think that holds true for people that like hunting and fishing, people that like hiking, camping, backpacking, all those sorts of things. Um, and I think when I, as both a researcher and as someone, as an educator, right, that what the beauty of the outdoors and all of those resources and things that we really appreciate is only really one part of the story. Um, we also have to deal with sort of environmental damage and impacts that we as humans have had on the environment. So the consequences of a society that is predominantly reliant on fossil fuels and things like climate change is the most obvious example, with pollution and other things as well. And so even the most remote, pristine environments on the planet are still touched by human impact. If only through the contributions of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere and changes in climate. So it's one thing to be an environmental scientist and to love the outdoors and want to help protect the outdoors, but we need to recognize the damage that's being done to the environment and how to protect that. And I think the other way it ties into being Vincentian is understanding sort of the human connection to um, to the environmental damage. So all of these issues of climate change, whether we're talking globally or even locally or nationally, these impacts tend to disproportionately impact groups that are already marginalized or disadvantaged. So, and like I said, we see this globally, we see it nationally, we see it locally. And so to be Vincentian to me means, recognizing that even though environmental issues impact all of us, the impacts are felt much more strongly, much more keenly with already marginalized groups. And the reality is that it's really the most privileged among us that are sort of the major contributors to some of those environmental issues. So as an environmental scientist, there's this understanding that, my work is environmental microbiology. I'm focusing on very specific areas and very specific environments, but sort of recognizing that your work has a bigger picture in understanding how the science works out in the environment, so you can understand how to protect it and how to make the environment more resilient against human impacts. And then as an educator, as an instructor here at NU, I feel like it's really important to make sure that you have the responsibility to make sure the students not only understand the science of the environment, ecology, and things like that, but they also understand that human connection. That environmental science doesn't just mean understanding the species that are out there and their interactions or nutrient cycling. It means understanding how the environment has been damaged, how it impacts things like water quality, and not just in our lakes and streams, but drinking water quality and things like that. So for me, that's an important part of when I'm teaching that we talk about the science, we talk about the importance of understanding the science and being scientifically literate, but we also make sure that we always talk about what is that human connection to the environment? How are people actually impacted by it?